Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Myself Kashif Ihsan. I'm going to start presentation on Central Processing Unit, that is CPU. Okay, I'm going to start introduction that what actually Central Processing Unit is. Okay, let's move to a definition. The computer's central processing unit (CPU) is a portion of a computer that retrieves and executes instructions. The CPU is essentially the brain of a CAD system. It consists of an arithmetic and logic units (ALU), a control unit, and various registers. Here is a diagram. Okay, why CPU is important? Central Processing Unit (CPU) is an important part of every computer. The CPU sends signal to control the other parts of the computer. Its work just like brain work are in our body. The CPU is an electronic machine that works on a list of computer things to do called instruction. So here's the importance of CPU. Okay, let's move to our next slide. Main function of CPU. Okay, the CPU performs basic arithmetic logic controlling and input-output operations specialized by the instructions in the program. This contrasts with external components such as main memory and I/O circuitry and specialized processors such as graphics processing units (GPU). Okay, in the next slides, I'm going to discuss components of the CPU. CPU itself has following three components. So there is a three component of CPU, that is memory or storage unit, control unit, and ALU, arithmetic logic unit. So these three are the component of CPU. Okay, now we are going to discuss the first component, that is memory or storage unit. This unit can store instruction data and intermediate results. This unit supplies information to other units of the computer when needed. It is also known as internal storage unit or the main memory or the primary storage or random access memory, that is RAM. Its size affects speed, power, and capability. Primary memory and secondary memory are two types of memories in the computer. So these are the two types of memory in computer. Function of the memory units are, so here I'm going to discuss function of the memory units. Number one is it store all the data and instructions required for processing. It store intermediate result of processing. Number three, it stored the final results of processing before these results are released to an output device. All input and output are transmitted through the main memory. So these are the function of memory unit. Okay, in the next slides, I'm going to discuss control unit. This unit controls the operations of all parts of the computer but doesn't carry out any actual data processing operations. Okay, now function of this unit. Number one is it is responsible for controlling the transfer of data and instruction among other units of a computer. Number two, it manages and coordinates all the units of the computer. It obtains the instruction from the memory, interrupt them, and direct the operation of the computer. It communicates with input-output device for the transfer of data or result for storage. It doesn't process or store data. Okay, now third component of CPU is ALU. I'm going to discuss that. This unit consists of two subsections, namely Arithmetic Section and Logic Section. So this component have two sections. Arithmetic Section. Function of Arithmetic Section is to perform arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So here is the for function of arithmetic section. All complex operations are done by making repetitive use of the above operations. Okay, next, logic section. Function of logic section is to perform logic operations such as comparing, selecting, matching, and merging of data. Other CPU components list are, okay, system bus. Prime objective of system bus is to transmit all data and instructions, as well as it sends the address locations that aware the CPU where in the main memory all data and instructions are receiving from and where processed data should be saved. Next, external bus. It is a communication medium. Then internal data bus. This type of data bus makes the connection between all the internal components of processor and motherboard. So this make a connection between internal components and internal components of processor and motherboard. The size of internal buses are dependent at how much information processor can process accurately concurrently. Address lines. Address lines are designed to identify the appropriate location in the memory unit where data is presented. Okay, next, register. Register is also known as accumulator, and it works as temporary storage location where data is coming from main memory side for execution and move it for storing. Or flags. Flags are embedded into CPU and they work as register because they indicate the all currently running states of entire functions and other operations. Cache. Cache is also integrated into chip, but it is fastest memory to the primary memory, and it helps to increase the performance of processor. So here is a part of CPU. Okay, now types of CPU. Single core CPU. It is the oldest type of CPU which is available and employed in most of the personal and official computers. Number two, dual core CPU. It is a single CPU that comprises of two strong cores and functions like dual CPU acting like one. Quad core CPU. Hexa-core processor, octa-core processors, deca-core processors. So here's a type of CPU. Features of CPU. CPU features are classified into various 8 categories such as cache memory, cores in CPU, speeds, bandwidth, hyper-threading, virtualization's help, and architectures of CPU embedded GPU. That are the features of CPU. Okay, in the next slides, characteristic means computer capabilities. So I'm going to discuss characteristics mean computer capability. Characteristic of computer processing unit is speed, accuracy, consistency, data storing capability, and flexibility. Okay, here I'm going to discuss speed. A speed is a very fast, computer is a very fast device. It can perform in a second the amount of work that a human being can do in an entire year working down the clock. The speed of the computer is usually 2 to 4 gigahertz. A powerful computer is capable of performing about 10 to 40 million arithmetic calculations in a second. Or we can say that computer speed is measured in megahertz or gigahertz. 1 megahertz equal to 1 million tick per second. 1 gigahertz equal to 1 billion tick per second. That is a calculation. Okay, accuracy. The accuracy of the computer is constantly high, and the degree accuracy of a particular task is 100% accurate. And every computer, each and every calculation with the same accuracy. Error can occur in the computer due to human actions rather than technological weakness due to improvised thinking by the programmer. A person who writes instruction for a computer to solve a practical program, particular problems are an inaccuracy of the input data. Okay. Consistency. Unlike human beings, computers are the machines that are highly consistent. They never get bored too. A computer never complains of a monotonous job. Hence, they are ideal machine for carrying out repetitive and voluminous work 24 hours a day and 365 days in a year. Okay. Now, storage capacity. Today's computer can store huge amount of data. Once recorded, a piece of information is never forgotten, and any information retrieved almost instantly. An entire movie can be stored on a CD and played in a computer any number of times without any failure. Flexibility. A computer is perhaps the first general-purpose machine driven by man. All other machines like television, refrigerator, or typewriter do only one thing for which they are designed. But computers do any kind of work at the same time, like play songs, movie, type, later, send faxes, fix problem in complex manufacturing operation, design, building, and construct bridges, etc. So here's a picture. Thanks for watching. Allah Hafiz.